I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, as we roll into the busy spring market here, not much has changed since my last updates. Market continues to be very strong. Prices are up. Sales are at record levels. Inventory remains low. Strong seller's market across the board. But of course, as expected, we're starting to see some things in the news now on the Vancouver Sun and Globe and Mail and in a lot of the media. People calling for the government now to step in to do something about this red hot housing market, not just in Vancouver, but Canada-wide. And this always happens. It's these same group of people that are kind of on the outside looking in that still think that government is their friend, that government is there to help them buy a house. How many blogs have I done over the last 10 years on don't rely on the government for anything? They're not your friend. Pay your taxes, renew your driver's license and passport, but try and distance yourself from any help from the government. That's not what they're there for. They're not going to bail you out. But I'm not exactly sure what people want the government to do here that they already haven't done. I mean, they have, over the last 5 years, provincially, especially provincially here and city here in Vancouver, have thrown everything but the kitchen sink at this market to try and cool it. They've been trying to work the demand side, cool demand. They don't do anything with the supply side, which maybe it's time one of these days, maybe we'll start working that side of the equation. But you see, the government, it's a smoke and mirror sleight of hand. They don't want your attention on the supply side because they know, and I'm going to talk about in a minute, that's where really the big bucks are. The city of Vancouver is adding $200,000 to a typical one-bedroom condo right now in taxes and red tape. They don't want you to know about that stuff. Instead, let's do an empty homes tax. Let's do a BC spec tax. Let's cap the allowable rent increases. Let's put a foreign buyer's tax on it. Let's target money launderers and speculators, and there's thousands of empty condos. I've been saying all along here, if you watch my older blogs, go back, that this was a lot of smoke and mirrors, and it was not going to move the needle at all. As a matter of fact, it was going to make things worse. So here we are, spring 2021, prices are way up, condos are finally starting to pop again here too. And now, of course, people are calling for the government to come and save them, come and help me, coddle me, help me buy a house. And they're not going to do it. I don't think they have anything left in their quiver anyways. What is the next step? Most of it would be federal. Eliminate the principal resident exemption. Yeah, that'll put a cold bucket of water on things. Eliminate the capital gains tax for sure. City of Vancouver is going to keep raising property taxes double digits here moving forward. Keep those caps and limitations on rental properties and what landlords can do. There's not much left they haven't already done. But I'll tell you the big reason why they're not doing anything right now is because they don't have anything left, and most of it to make any impact is at the federal level, not at the provincial or city level. But the other thing is they've run out of boogeymen. They've run out of enemies, as a couple of articles that I recently read were talking about, and they're 100% true. Back in 2016, it was the foreign buyers. That was the enemy there. And then it was the money launderers. And then it was the speculators flipping and buying condos and leaving them empty. Those all, in my opinion, turned out to be a facade for the most part. Go back and watch my other blogs. I'm not even going to get into it again here. I've done 10 or 15 blogs on the money laundering, on the foreign buyers myth. I realized a long time ago, people either are going to look at this with a balanced approach and what I'm saying, or, hey, it doesn't matter what I say. I'm not going to convert anyone over. As far as they're concerned, everything is being bought by foreigners and money launderers, and that's what's bringing up the prices here, and it's not. But I'll tell you, they've run out of enemies or boogeymen to target here, and they have. Because the buyers today are locals, pretty much 100%. There's no foreign buyers. And even before that, as I often said, these people all had their PR status or were in the process of getting their PR status or Canadian passport. But all the buyers now are young tech workers. Just so far this year, I've probably sold 7 downtown condos to first-time buyers, principal residence buyers. And a lot of them are in tech. Some of them have banked and saved their money for the last couple of years, got tired of renting. In some cases, maybe they got a little help from the bank of mom and dad, which is pretty common here as well. And they've gotten themselves into the market. So, the NDP, what are they going to do, City of Vancouver? What's left for them to do? There's no boogeyman left anymore here to target anymore. There's no speculators or foreign buyers or money launderers. It's locals now. And that's something that I saw on my YouTube channel here. It's a comment section. A couple of guys pointed out, and I also saw this in the Globe and Mail and some stuff on Twitter. This is going to be kind of interesting. This new core buyer group that's come in the last 3 or 4 months, both buying detached in the suburbs, but a lot of buyers have come in now for condos lately downtown and Mount Pleasant and Kitts. A few of these guys were speculating, these are local buyers, and a lot of these buyers, you can bet, voted NDP. They had to. Half the province voted NDP, so half the buyers are probably NDP voters. It's going to be interesting to see how this moves forward. Because as I've often said here, I've talked about this many times, everybody is a socialist when you're on the outside looking in. Everybody is wanting more taxes, more income tax, more capital gains tax, get rid of any exemptions, keep pumping up those property taxes, because I'm a renter and I want prices to come down. Taxes are great when you're on the outside looking in, or maybe, moving up the income ladder and not earning a whole lot of money. But it's funny, once you become a homeowner, everything will start to change. You'll see, for all you first-time home buyers, things will start to change once you're in the market. Now all of a sudden, you're not all that bullish on double-digit increases to your property taxes. And all of a sudden, you don't want as many restrictions on you as a homeowner on what you can do with your property. Are you able to rent it out, or can you have a second property, or a summer home, or a home in the city and you live out in the suburbs? All of a sudden, you're not so game on any of those things. Property income taxes, same thing. When you're earning 30 grand a year, hey, sure, stick it to the rich. Once you start moving up and graduate from school, get a good job, and you're earning 100 or 150 or 200K, all of a sudden those property taxes or income taxes don't look so good anymore, and you got to keep a bar in your office when you're doing your taxes. So, as a few people are pointing out, it might diminish some of the voter base of the NDP. Because once you're in the market and you're earning money and everything else, all of a sudden all these high taxes and restrictions don't look all that great anymore. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. The other thing, of course, is I've blogged many times on this, how the real estate market punches. It's already a heavyweight, but it punches as a super heavyweight when it comes to the economy in British Columbia and in the city of Vancouver. We're taking in billions of dollars every year in the property transfer tax. It's the biggest tax grab going. Introduced in the mid-'80s, it only affected about 2% of the purchases. Now everyone's paying the PTT, and it's just a blatant tax grab. But again, that PTT revenue drives this economy. So if you're asking what the government's going to do, you have to realize how everything plays together. And I don't think a lot of people have any clue that these people will say, hey, the government should step in to help regulate the market and bring prices down so I can buy a home. Listen, the government is collecting billions here in PTT revenue. They need this housing market to stay strong and to keep these revenues coming in, because the PTT keeps this province and this city afloat. Same thing with the property taxes. I don't think people really realize how powerful the real estate industry is, the jobs it creates, and the tax revenue is off the charts. So I'm not sure what else you want the government to do. Again, as I've been saying for 5 years since the foreign buyers tax came in and all the way through, these taxes are smoke and mirrors. They're all a giant facade. You have to see through these things. They're just little things that they do to buy votes, to make it look like we're going to do something to help you buy a house. And I've been saying all along here, go back and watch my blogs, that this is just smoke and mirrors. It's just lip service to buy votes. And I think most people that watch my blog, anyone that I think understands what I'm saying here and would agree with it. They do these little tweaks and things to buy your vote, to make it look like they're going to help you. Don't rely on this. Don't rely on the government to step in and help you buy a house. Market's hot. Eventually this market will cool. It always does. It'll take a 5 or 10% correction. Maybe it'll tread water for a couple of years, and then it'll do what it's doing now. It'll take a nice jolt up of 10 or 15%. That's how these markets work, and why I always tell people, get in the market, save for the down payment. It's the Tina effect. There is no alternative. If you're going to be a long-term renter in a city as expensive as Vancouver, you are going to be destroyed financially when you can get a sub 2% mortgage rate and you're paying $2,200 or $2,300 for a simple one bed. If you're going to move to this city and you might be living here for only a couple of years and can't commit, then do not buy. Stay renting. You need to commit to home ownership. My golden rule is always 8 to 10 years minimum. The longer the better. Leave that 8 to 10 year window or better, and it'll work out fantastic for you. Far better than renting. So always keep that in mind. But markets will go up and down. Get in the market, don't over leverage, leave yourself a buffer for interest rate hikes down the road, because they've only got one way to go from here. But the government, if you're relying on the government here again to try and do something to help you buy a house, get over it. Stop listening to these people that are complaining that want the government to come and coddle you in some way. Not going to happen. Instead, I'm going to do more blogs later this spring. Maybe it's time for a change. We've been trying for 15, 20 years now to try and curb demand in a city as great as Vancouver. Pretty tough task. Throw everything but the kitchen sink to try and curb demand. Why don't we start working the supply side? The reason that the government doesn't start talking a lot about this is because this is where all the money's being collected. They're collecting $200,000 from a developer on a typical one bed, which goes into the city coffers, which they waste and pilfer away. We should probably start working the demands or the supply side a little more. What would it hurt? Trying to curb demand hasn't done anything. Prices just keep going up. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.